amigos, welcome back. For those watching me for the first time, my name is Adiola and I live here in Merida, Yucatan, Mexico, where I share my experiences as a single woman living here in Merida, Yucatan. Now, if you have been watching me for a while now, but you haven't subscribed yet, please do click on that subscribe button to be a part of the community. And if you have any question for me, tips, suggestions, you can always leave them in the comment section, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at Expat. If this video resonates with you, or you think that someone you know will find value in it, please do click on the share button to share it with them. All right, so today's video will be about 9 reasons why I decided not to buy in a fraccionamiento. So fraccionamiento is like a housing division. So where like you go live in a suburb and you have rows and rows and rows of houses, and they all look the same. So when I was looking to purchase a property here in Merida back in July of 2022, I went online and I did a lot of research and I looked everywhere, north, south, even the south, yes. I actually found a property that was about 75,000 pesos. Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, it was about 75,000 pesos. Anyway, so I went everywhere. I didn't discriminate. I was just looking for properties that were in my budget and, you know, just to see what's out there, at least what was out there. Then I had just gotten my car and I was still a new driver in Mexico. Not a new driver, but a new driver in Mexico. So I drove everywhere. I drove in the city and I also drove outside of the city. And then I wasn't as experienced driving on the peripheral. I've driven a few times on the peripheral, but not as much as I did then. When I was looking also, I found out that there were many developers building brand new homes outside of the peripheral. And the prices of those homes were between 500,000 pesos to about 2.8, almost 3 million pesos, depending on where you're buying and depending on the size of the lot, the size of construction, the finishing materials, so on and so forth. But they had different homes for different budgets. I was like, wow, this is really cool. 500,000 pesos, wow, okay. So I got in the car and I would drive to these places from my old neighborhood, it's just Carranza. I would drive to, for example, Cauquel, Los Almendros, Tixcacal Opichen, San Pedro Cholu. I think I went towards the beach once, the Fraccionamientos towards the beach. I went to Floresta, I went to Chichi Suarez. I went all over the place. And where else? Las Americas, of course. Pretty much, I was just driving all over the place. So after about a month of doing that, or maybe 3 weeks, I was like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. And the reasons why it wasn't for me, I will be sharing them right now. So the first reason, which was my main reason, was the distance. Now for me, I actually can live anywhere in Merida, in the world, really. I don't have to be close to anything because I don't have a traditional job whereby I have to drive to every day. Also, I don't have kids that I have to drive to school every single day. So really, I can live anywhere. So location, for me, it's not important. But I chose to move to Merida to have the traditional Yucatecan lifestyle. So to me, living in those fraccionamientos will be so outside of my goals, outside of the reasons that brought me here, my motivation to move here and to live here. So I was like, really, things are not adding up. So the first reason, which was really my main reason, was the distance. It was just too far from everything. Everything to me then was central, because then I had been living in Merida for a year and a half, and I had gotten used to going to Centro 3, 4, sometimes 5 times in a week. I had gotten used to that because I host a weekly language exchange meetings every Wednesdays, and I think then I had a few other things I was working on. I also host a monthly ladies brunch also in Central. So, and they have many cultural activities in Central. So I had gotten used to going to Central Merida, so downtown Merida, a few times in a week. So me having to drive from my house in those fraccionamientos to Central was like, no. So distance, number one. Number two was the stress of driving, especially during hora pico. Hora pico is peak hour, so rush hour, right? Now for me again, because I don't have a traditional job, meaning I don't have a traditional working hours, I can move around when there's low traffic. But sometimes I have appointments that I have to get to when it's still a little bit busy. Sometimes, like for example, going to Centro for my language exchange that starts at 7, meaning that I might have to leave the house around 6:15, 6:20, and that is still rush hour, right? So the stress of driving and also the stress of driving on the peripheral, and most importantly, the stress of entering or exiting the peripheral, so crossing the peripheral. So you have the peripheral around the city. I'm going to attach the map of Merida in this video. You have the peripheral, so you have to go outside of the city to your fraccionamiento, or you have to come inside of the city. So during rush hour, depending on what direction you're going, there could be a bottleneck, whereby normally, let's say there's no traffic, it takes you a few minutes to just cross the peripheral. During rush hour, or when it's just very busy in the city, it could take you 20 minutes to just cross the same peripheral because there's a bottleneck, even though they do have traffic policemen guiding traffic. But sometimes it can get crazy. So that alone to me was like a no-no. And also sometimes some peripherals, they have a huge roundabout, massive roundabout. And those roundabouts can get chaotic, right? It can get chaotic and very scary. So I was like, I don't think I can be doing this. Because remember then, I was a new driver in Mexico. So I was just terrified. And another thing also that terrified me was making a U-turn. Retorno, it's called retorno. Making a U-turn on the peripheral. Peripheral is a high-speed highway. You have people traveling between 80 kilometers an hour to like 140 kilometers an hour. Now try making a U-turn on that. I mean, they have special lanes to make a U-turn, but I remember when I was going to check out some properties in Tishkakan or Pichen, you do have to go through the peripheral, like make a U-turn and so on and so forth every single day to go to your home or to, coming from your home. So I was like, oh my gosh, it was so scary. Sometimes I would actually miss the point where I was supposed to make a U-turn because I was trying to change lanes and the cars behind me, they wouldn't let me change lanes because drivers here, they don't yield. They don't give the right of way. They just keep driving. They don't care. Even though you're signaling like, hey, can I change the lane? I'm trying to change the lane to the left or to the right. They don't care. Most of them, not all. Most of them, they don't care. So it was so scary. It was so stressful. I was like, no, I can't do this. Too stressful, too scary. So I was like, no, I can't live in a fraccionamiento, especially if I have to be making a U-turn every single day on the peripheral. And also, the only way that I can get to this fraccionamiento is to drive on a peripheral. There are some fraccionamientos whereby you can actually avoid the peripheral, right? For example, getting to Cauquel, for example, you drive on Avenida Canek and you cross the peripheral and you're, in Cauquel, right? But some fraccionamientos, you do have to drive a little bit on the peripheral in order for you to be able to access your fraccionamiento. So I was like, no, this stress is too much. No. Number one, they're too far. Number two, the stress of getting there. No, it's too much for me. So I was like, X. And number three. So I mentioned, so number three actually relates a little bit to number one, and that is distance. So I said distance meaning that it's far from everything. Well, they're very far from everything. But really, for me, it was mainly the fact that I knew that if I were to live in a fraccionamiento, my social lifestyle would just go down. Like I probably won't go out as much as I was going out there because then I lived like 10 minutes bike ride to Central. Like sometimes I would ride my bike, sometimes I would drive when I was feeling lazy. But sometimes, it was like, yeah. So I was like, if I live in these neighborhoods, I probably won't go anywhere. I'll just stay home. Because, like, driving, like, just to go eat or take, like, some drinks with some friends, no. So I was like, no, I came here for a better quality of life. So I was like, no, like, let me not isolate myself. Let me at least, let's not live here. These housing developments were not built for somebody like me. They were built for families who maybe were looking to retire away from the city and just have a more quiet environment to raise their kids. And also you have many people coming from outside of Merida, outside of Yucatan, and they're looking for something affordable for them and their family, so they will live in those fraccionamientos. So I was like, I probably wasn't their target audience. So X, let's not live here because the distance alone will kill my social lifestyle. Number 4, this is really important actually when buying properties anywhere in the world, and that is plusvalia. I will spell that out on the screen. Plusvalia is pretty much land appreciation or property appreciation. So in many fraccionamientos, the plusvalia can be very slow and can be very little. So yeah, many fraccionamientos, plusvalias almost they don't exist. So meaning if I buy my property at a particular price point, let's say 2 million pesos, 5 years later I might be lucky if I sell the property for 2.2 million pesos, right? Versus here in Central Merida, I buy my property for 2 million pesos, I build it up, I renovate it, I make it look very nice. 5 years later, I can sell it for 4 million pesos, something like that, right? So I was like, no, I want a place whereby at least I know that, I can get some money out of it when it's time to go, right? Some fraccionamientos are okay if it's in the northeast of Merida, but if it's not in those areas, the plusvalia might be a little bit on the certain side. And relating with plusvalia, that is the value of rent. As long as you're living outside of the peripheral, you're not living like in a very fancy, schmancy, high demand privada or something like that, then rent can be very low, right? For example, places like Cauquel, for example, it's known for low price rent, affordable rent. So if I'm going to spend this much money to buy a property in Cauquel, and I can only rent it out for 10,000 pesos. Whereas if I buy the same property in neighborhoods like Los Pinos or Florida or Montes de Jaime or something like that, for the same size of property, everything the same that I used to build a property, the blocks, cement and everything, but just in a different part of town, I can get double that in rent, just like that. Or even here in Central, I can get double that, just like that. So I was like, no, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because I saw some properties, very big homes, that they were renting then for about 13,000 Mexican pesos, and the same property, like in a different neighborhood in Merida, were renting for about 20,000 pesos, thereabout. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. So again, so plusvalia rent, almost similar. So I was like, no, it's not worth it. If really it's like you're paying the same for cement blocks, the people that would actually build the house and everything. So, but you're not getting as much for it. So I was like, no. Fraccionamientos, also no. The next reason, which I believe is the 6th reason, is the fact that in these fraccionamientos, the aesthetics of the homes were just not appealing to me. They were not pleasing. They were not eye-catching because they were just box homes. Box homes, copy-paste homes, like copy-paste, very basic, nothing unique, nothing special. Some homes or some housing development, they added some character in terms of the color, the design of the house, or even the street were very wide, right? But some, in most cases, they were just the regular white and gray homes, copy-paste, box style homes. So really, I'm just like, okay. And also the fact that like everything looks the same, it looks very boring. And to me, I'm just like, I will be so bored living here. Like there's nothing pleasing to the eye. And along with that, many of these housing developments, many times the quality sometimes goes down the drain because these people are they're building like hundreds and hundreds of homes at the same time, right? So sometimes they can use cheap materials, cheap labor. They don't supervise the quality of labor, right? So sometimes many things can just go astray, right? So it's that even though many of those homes they'll tell you they have a guarantee of a year or something. But one thing about Mexico is that really that's just a piece of paper. Like people will tell you, hey, my work has a guarantee. Hey, this product has a guarantee. No, 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 it doesn't work like that. So yeah, so just like, you know what? Let me just know. The next reason, which is the eighth reason, is that many times with these fraccionamientos, usually you pay them ahead of time. You pay them 20% or whatever, and then they give you a payment plan of, let's say, a year or 2 years, depending on the delivery date. So like, let's say the property costs 2 million pesos, and then you pay them like 20%, whatever, and then the rest will be spread out over 2 years. But sometimes the thing is that sometimes the delivery timeline they give you sometimes might not even correlate with what they tell you. So it might take 6 months longer, 8 months longer, a year longer. So meaning you're still paying rent for that long. So the fact that there were many uncertainty, right, around it, I just thought, okay, and also it's gonna be my first property. I'm still a foreigner here, temporary resident, so on and so forth. Let me know, dabble with this the first time around. The next reason here is, so going back to distance, right? I said many of these fraccionamientos, they're like far out. For some of them, they're just a few minutes outside of the peripheral. For some of them, they're like many kilometers outside of the peripheral. Like you're driving and driving and driving. Sometimes the road conditions are not even that great because it's a developing area. Sometimes it's a country road, right? Country road meaning it means at night they have no street lights, so it's dark, pitch black. And for me, driving at night scares me because I'm thinking like something can just jump out of the bushes and attack and try to attack my car, and then I'll just freak out and just drive into a ditch. So I'm always so careful driving at night. Yeah, so many of those fraccionamientos, they feel so far out, and I just feel like it feels far out, and I'll probably feel so lonely because it's like people are like inside their homes. It's very quiet. I mean, you can make an effort to make friends with your neighbors, the ones next to you, in front of you, behind you and such. But I just felt like living here, I'll feel super lonely, and because everything just feels so far out. So another reason why I decided not to dabble, because sometimes for me, in my neighborhood where I'm living right now, or even in my previous neighborhood, if I'm feeling bored, anxious, or whatever, I just leave my apartment, I leave my house, I go for walks, I go to the parks, or I might just go to Central. I just go check out whatever activity they have going on. Just go to Central. 10 minutes drive, 10 minutes bike ride. Yeah, riding a bike and driving in Central, it takes the same length of time. Sometimes it's even faster to even ride a bike. Okay, and the ninth reason, which is really the last reason, is that you're gonna need a car to live in these fraccionamientos. Now, not everybody has a car or even own a car, and there are many immigrants, expats who are living in these fraccionamientos and they don't own cars. They take Ubers everywhere. But the only challenge is that getting Ubers from those places can take a really long time, depending on where your fraccionamiento is, depending on how far away it is. So getting an Uber from those places can take a really long time, and of course, definitely they will be very expensive going in and out. So that's why some of these people who live in those fraccionamientos, even though they're paying less in rent, sometimes it also has an effect on their social lifestyle because they're thinking, oh, it'll take me a long time to find an Uber, and also getting an Uber will be very expensive. Hey, I'm trying to cut down on my expenses, so let me stay in more. Whereas, let's say they were in the city, they can just, take a quick Uber ride, which will be much cheaper, very, very fast to find, and they can even take the bus, the van. Now, those fraccionamientos, yeah, they do have buses that goes to many, if not most fraccionamientos, they have buses, but again, the length of time that it will take you to get to your fraccionamiento, depending on where it's located, sometimes it's not even worth it, because it's like, let's say the event starts at 7, you have to leave your house by 5:30 to get there on time, and then you leave at 10, you don't get home by till 11:30, 11:45. If you're gonna be taking the bus. So sometimes it's not even worth it, right? So yeah, so that's why it's always good to own a car. Even though I did have my own car then, but going back to the reason that I stated, like driving to those fraccionamientos, they were so stressful. Like they were just driving my blood pressure up. So I was like, no, this is I mean, it's not that bad. I'm sure now driving back and forth, now that I've been driving here for 3 years, now I'll probably be like, oh, it's not so bad. But then as a new driver in Mexico, I just felt like, oh, this is too stressful. So I just decided not to live in fraccionamiento. So yeah, so those are my reasons why I decided to not live in a fraccionamiento, but to actually invest in purchasing a property here in the city, where at least I know that I can achieve the reasons why I moved here to Merida, Mexico. So if you're watching this video and you happen to live in one of those fraccionamientos, you could be renting, or maybe you purchased a home, let me know the reason or the reasons why you purchased your property in those areas. Now, I know many families will purchase outside of the city because they can get a very big house or a good sized lot, swimming pool, everything is all built out. It's turnkey, and you just have to move in with your stuff, because they have too many things going on, kids, work, everything, that they don't have this time to buy a fixer-upper in Central or even anywhere else. And also, if you have kids, you want to be close to the bilingual schools. So bilingual schools are usually in the north. So, you want to be close to places whereby you will frequent daily basis or what have you. So if you live in one of those fraccionamientos, let me know what your experience is like. Or at least if you lived there in the past, let me know what your experience was like. And as usual, if you have any question for me, you can always leave it in the comment section below, or you can also send me a DM on Instagram at Africana Expat. And yeah, and if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do click on the subscribe button to be subscribed. And you can also click the like button if you're still thinking about it. But if there's something that I mentioned here that resonates with you and that you feel like a friend of yours will find value in, please do click on the share button to share it with them. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao.